Hello and welcome to Tomi Talks TV. I have one singular goal with this show, and that is to help you make smarter decisions so that you can have better relationships. Now, I'd like to start as usual by saying a very big thank you. Thank you for all your likes and your shares and your comments on Facebook, on Instagram, on YouTube. I really appreciate you because you're helping us spread the message further faster. So thank you very much indeed. Now, today I'm going to be answering another one of your questions, and it goes like this. I need some advice for choosing a wife. I have prayed to God for His will. I am 28 this year. I have mentored many Christian ladies as spiritual daughters. Lately, I began to get intentionally connected to one of them who is 8 years younger than I am. I asked her if she was ready to start up a relationship, and she said that she was open. When I discuss with her, she opens up my thinking and she helps me to see more possibilities in what I am doing. She's very mature and I love her intelligence and soundness of mind. The challenge I face is twofold. Firstly, I'm wondering whether the age gap is too wide given that she's in university at the moment. I think in 2 years I should be ready for marriage. That means she will be in year 2 or year 3. Secondly, we live in different states which are quite far apart, and I'm wondering how we will manage the distance. What should I do? Thank you for this question. It's an excellent question. And I have to say I'm really very passionate about this one because this actually speaks to exactly the kind of circumstance that my husband and myself found ourselves in, when we were courting. So if you know my story, I actually met my husband when I was 18, which is 2 years older than the lady that you're thinking about courting. I was 18. My husband was 5 years older than I was. I was in my first year in university. He was in his final year in university. So there was obviously, that big gap in terms of when I was going to be ready for marriage. We spent 1 year together while he was still in university, and then he moved to a different city to start to work. I was, studying architecture. Architecture is the kind of degree where you have to do your first degree and your second degree in order for you to be fully qualified. So it was 7 years before we actually got married. So this was 7 years where of those 7 years, 6 of those years we spent apart. So I absolutely can understand where you find yourself and I identify with it. Well, let me answer this question in 2 parts. First of all, the question of, is she too young for you? Now, she's 8 years younger than you are. 8 years is a substantial gap. However, the most important thing really is not a question of what her age is, but how mature is she? And, from the way you've described her, it sounds to me as if she's a very mature person, and it's quite clear what she brings into the relationship and what she would bring into the marriage. And that is really fundamental, because what you don't want is to get married to somebody that you see more like a daughter than a friend. But it sounds to me like you really respect her, you respect her her mindset, you respect her views, you respect her thinking, and she'll be somebody that you would value her opinion in the marriage. And that's really important, because when you get married to someone, it needs to be somebody that you can be friends with, somebody that you can discuss your issues with, somebody, with whom you're on the same page, and you can actually feel like, she's bringing something into the marriage. So you're not going to be treating her as a daughter, you're going to be treating her as a wife. So that's the first thing. So it sounds to me like, she's got all the qualities that you're looking for in a woman. She sparks your thinking, she helps you see possibilities where you don't see possibilities. It sounds to me like you're a good match. So from my perspective, I will say that, look, she's got the maturity that you need in the wife that you're looking for, because maturity is not about age ultimately, but it's about the exposure of the person and how they develop themselves as a person. And it sounds that she's developed herself very well. So on that ground, I would say that you don't have any issues at all, and you shouldn't be worried about 8 years as a gap. On the other hand, talking about the issue of distance. Now, long distance relationships are not particularly easy, and especially you're concerned about the question of, well, if she's, I want to get married in a couple of years time and she may be in year 2 or in year 3, then I would say, look, absolutely be patient, because when you find a good thing, you should be prepared to wait for it. My husband was prepared to wait for 7 years before he got married to me, and I'm so glad that he did, and I respect him till tomorrow for that. So I would say you've got to be patient, and in the process of that patience, well, you've got to be committed to spending time together, or, you know, finding ways to stay connected even though you are apart and you're in different cities. Things are a whole lot easier now than they were when we were courting. When we were courting, there were no mobile phones. There was no internet. Yes, I'm dating myself now. But, you know, there was none of that. So everything was by letter, snail mail. So you had to write your letters and wait for weeks and weeks for the person to get the letter. And then weeks and weeks after, you would get a response. And then, you know, occasionally you could make a landline phone call to them and all that. But we committed to doing as much as we could to stay in contact, to trying to talk as much as we could. And then also, you know, he would come to visit me in university from time to time. So it takes a lot of commitment to actually build a long-term relationship, a long-distance relationship. But you know, if you're determined to make it work, it can work. And one of the things that I would say that, you know, really helped in our marriage was that my husband, you know, where he was working, he was constantly shouting about the relationship, because obviously, you know, there were lots of young women around and who were like, you know, is this man available? But, you know, he had a picture of me on his desk at work. He was constantly talking about the relationship, so that it was clear that he was committed in the relationship. So what I will say is if you work at it, it can work, right? It can work. And, you know, if you're patient and you take your time, you know, even if you have to wait 4 years, it's not a huge amount of time for you to wait as a man. If you're getting married, you know, in your early 30s, that's absolutely fine. So I would absolutely strongly encourage you to stick with this, because it sounds like you found a good thing. Well, I hope this has helped you. This has helped you, then please leave me a message on Facebook, on Instagram, or wherever it is you're watching. And if you've got a question you would like me to answer, then head on over to tomitalks.com/ask, and I'll answer your question next time. See you next time. Bye-bye.